The Sandy and Toddcast is a Mindgarden Media podcast in association with
Screw You, Todd
Productions.
Broadcasting from two very different yet magical places not found on any map. Get ready to discuss the strange, weird, ghostly, crazy, spooky, and odd things that take place around us each and every day. All while having a little bit of fun. This is the Sandy and Toddcast.
Welcome to the Sandy and Toddcast. She is Sandy.
He is Todd.
And season 15, episode 4 is upon us. Getting ready for...
This is the longest season in our history.
It's okay. There's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing wrong with that.
Without a doubt. It's fine. I know we've all had a pretty busy summer with a lot of stuff going on. So I'm glad we just got together today. This was good.
Yeah, we're getting ready for spooky season. I don't know.
Yes.
Has the weather changed by you? We cooled off quite a bit in August, and then it's kind of warmed up again just now.
Yeah.
Where we're back to almost, it's kind of more like summer again, but.
We had a really weird, I don't know what it was. I mean, we would briefly mention weather when we talked, but I don't know what yours has been like, but it was a really weird summer for us because it was really hot, and then we got a ton of rain, and then it was cool and no rain, and we were actually in a drought, I guess they considered it. And then we got some rain, but now we're back to warm weather. I have no idea what's going on right now. I don't know what tomorrow is going to bring. Today it's supposed to be 80 degrees.
Yeah, and for me, like once we hit September, it should start, and especially late September, we're almost in October.
I know.
My big concern is that because things have been so wacky, Halloween comes around. And in this part of the country where I'm at in the Great Lakes, it can either be really nice or it can be, you can have snow already. So I don't want the snow because that ruins trick-or-treating. And so, but whatever.
We've run the gamut over the years. I remember years where it's been really warm and gorgeous. There have been years where it's been snowing, cold rain. We've had incredible wind, so you just never know what you're going to get, especially here because we're not that far. We're about an hour and a half east of Lake Ontario. So it's not that far. We get what they call lake effect snow. Do you guys get lake effect snow?
Not here.
Okay. So we get lake effect snow, which means that it's going to be heavier, stronger. We get whiteouts a lot. I mean, the closer you get to the lakes, the worse it is. That's why Buffalo, Rochester, even Syracuse get hit really hard with lake effect every year. And then the more east you go, so say Albany, which is in the far eastern side of the state, they don't really get any. But so we get a decent amount every year of lake effect snow, and it's just heavier, more annoying snow. And so we run the gamut from a beautiful October to getting pounded with something. Last winter was not a great winter. It was a little bit colder, a little bit more snowy than we like. But the years before that were very mild. We had barely any snow a couple of years ago. So you never know what you're going to get around here either.
So as we come closer to spooky season, of course, some of the spooky movies are coming out, and a series of movies that, overall I thought were pretty good is the Conjuring series. Mm-hmm. And they just had I believe the last one, Last Rites, finally came out over the last couple of weeks or so. And I went to see it last weekend, and spoiler alert, if you don't want to know what's going on in the movie, you don't want to listen to this podcast because I'm going to talk about a lot of stuff, not necessarily how things end. I mean, we all know how it ends. Ed and Lorraine catch the ghost or get rid of the spirit. There's some holy water. There is, something going on. But I thought it was the timing of this movie was interesting. The information that I had been seeing from one side of the focus of the movie, and the information that you saw from the other side of the focus of the movie online kind of commingled, and it didn't all click until I was like pretty much like, I wouldn't say halfway in the movie, but at least a good quarter of the way in the movie. And I'm like, oh, well, shit, that's who that is. Oh, well, shit, that's who that is. And we'll explain a little bit of what we're talking about. The Conjuring series, of course, is about some of the investigations of Ed and Lorraine Warren. Started off with the Conjuring house and the Perron family. And then it went into the Annabelle doll and the nun and all that kind of stuff. And they wrapped up with one more investigation for Ed and Lorraine Warren.
And can I just say, too, that Andrea Perron has always been a figure. Let me give you a little background. All of the Conjuring cases in the series have been cases that I've known quite a bit about. I've been very informed on them because they've caught my interest before they were a movie franchise. So I had known about them for many, many years. The Conjuring house itself, I think we even did an episode or part of an episode several years ago and talked about the history of the house. And when I first heard about it many years ago, I actually Andrea did, I can't remember, Andrea, if you ever listen, I can't remember if she did 2 or 3 books about her experience in the house. And I read them. I read the first 2. It was House of Darkness, House of Light by Andrea Perron. Highly recommend it. It's fantastic. It's the first one in her series. And I read that one. And I loved it so much I read the second one because she was very matter of fact and a great storyteller and told exactly what happened in the house. And the story just fascinated me. So when I heard that, and of course, The Conjuring, the first one about the Conjuring house, as all movies in Hollywood do, I noticed that it took a lot of license from the story.
Sure.
Okay. Because you have to make it even scarier and you have to make it even more dramatic and you have to do all of this and all of that. And I understand that. So, and I just want to give a wonderful thank you to Andrea for if I had any wish, it would be to be able to actually interview her and speak to her because she is just somebody that I've looked up to for years because she's always been very honest and forthcoming about the things that happened in that house. And so anyway, so I loved that movie. I thought it was a great movie. Again, took some license, but was a great movie in and of itself. I appreciate the art of that movie. This movie, and I take this stuff personally. I know that sounds weird, but I really get so into the stories behind them that I understand that I take them personally. So long before all of that was the Smurl haunting in Pittston, Pennsylvania. And that's what this movie is based on, the Smurls.
So was the Smurl haunting before the Conjuring haunting? I don't think so, because the Smurl
no, it wasn't.
According to the movie, the Smurls was one of the last that Ed and Lorraine really did.
Yes, the Smurls were, if I'm correct. Now, a movie came out called The Haunted with Sally Kirkland. Does anybody remember her, the actress Sally Kirkland? That was the first time I had ever heard about the Smurls, was watching that movie. And I believe that came out in like 1990, something like that. But the Smurls, I believe it was about 14 years that they were going through this. They moved into what they call a duplex, meaning it's half a house. So if you took a knife and cut it right down the middle of the house, the Smurls were on one side, and then Jack, I think his first name was, Jack's parents lived on the right-hand side. So they bought the house together. It had a long, it had 2 separate doors. It had a long porch and then 2 separate sets of stairs. So it literally looked like 2 houses just put together. And that was, I think, in the 70s. So this would have been after the Conjuring house. But maybe right around the time of the Amityville horror story.
According to the movie, and again, I'm just going off the movie, It was about 1985, 1986. So
all right. So it would have been, it had to have been the late 70s-ish because, well, again, a movie. So because I think it said that they had gone through it for like 14 years total.
Okay. So they may have moved there, but I think Ed and Lorraine got there in the mid 80s. And the reason why I say that the dates might be somewhat correct is because of the side story that is portrayed in this movie.
Yes. Yes. So that pretty much lines up.
Okay. So
right.
Yeah. I mean, the movie itself, I went in and these movies do not scare me anymore.
No.
Because you know what's going to happen. I love the actors that they chose for Ed and Lorraine Warren, whether or not they're true to form. I still like them. They're likable characters.
Yeah.
But one of the things that the timing on this is so interesting because we have something going on in the background. We got several things going on in the background. You've got the actual Conjuring house, which is being auctioned off on the 31st of October. It's for sale again.
Yeah.
Due to some issues with the current owners and bankruptcy and ghosts getting at this person, according to the person, and all sorts of weird shit going on there.
Yeah.
But then you've also got another piece of the story, which is the fact that Ed and Lorraine's daughter, Judy, and her husband, Tony, have decided to sell Ed and Lorraine's house. And what I'm about to say is going to be just my recollection of the events. But they also have all the original museum stuff. The original cash box of haunted items that Ed and Lorraine kept locked away in their house that they have to deal with as well. So, and I think we've talked about it on this show very briefly. Matt Rife, comedian, and another gentleman have decided to buy the Ed and Lorraine Warren house. And I believe their idea is to do some sort of bed and breakfast kind of thing with it, where you can do some investigating, etc. The items of their museum, of their haunted collection, their cursed collection, is going to be put into another location that Matt Rife is leasing those items for 5 years. And then the, what's the paranormal society there? Is it the New England?
NESPR, New England Society for Paranormal Research.
Right. They will still manage the museum property. And then in 5 years, they can decide what to do with all the stuff.
Right.
So there's been a lot of talk online about selling in Lorraine's house. Family members within the Warren family are divided on the outcome of that and how it went down. And I think a lot of fans of, and even paranormal research, are like, what the fuck is going on here a little bit?
Yep.
And then Tony, it's Spera, right? Is that how you say his last name?
Yes.
Tony Spera, who's the husband of Judy and Lorraine's daughter, went online and did this huge diatribe of how people are judging them and, you know, they're just doing this because of this or that or whatever. And I understand where he's coming from. According to him, they sold the house. It's a financial decision. I get that. Having two homes and having an older home that you're trying to upkeep is not easy. Right. So I get it. There's no issue there. Selling it to Matt Rife you know,
that's where I go off in a different direction.
I do too, a little bit. And also, you know, listen, I don't have a problem with them trying to make money on, you know, doing the bed and breakfast thing. If that's what they want to do, I don't care. But people are going to question your motive. Okay. Your mom and dad, your mother and father-in-law, Tony, were controversial figures in the paranormal research realm for decades.
Right.
And they're gone, but it's still their work is still controversial. People still believe one way or another whether or not they were real or fake or what the hell was going on.
Right.
So people are going to want to know what's going on. People are invested in this. You've got a franchise built around it in the movie realm. So people are going to be even more interested on it. So listen, You married into an interesting family. You're selling an interesting house. You have access to interesting items in a cursed collection. You're going to be the target of some negativity from time to time. It's just going to happen. A couple of months ago, on tour with the Annabelle doll and other items from that collection, one of the gentlemen, and I'm sorry, I can't remember his name offhand, that was managing that tour had died, had a heart attack or something at the age of
Rivera.
Yeah.
Yep.
And so people are like, oh my God, it's a cursed doll. It's cursed items. You shouldn't be doing that with it. Okay. That's kind of how I feel. You kind of put yourself out there when you decide to take these quote unquote cursed items and take them on tour for people to spend money to see. And then Tony Sparrow gets all bent out of shape. Well, I don't know why people are associating his death with the items.
Oh, I can't imagine.
Well, Tony, your father and mother-in-law made it seem like these things were the most cursed things in the world. Okay. Again, this is the world that you've created.
Mm-hmm.
Of course, people are going to question that.
Right.
And people are going to question whether or not it's responsible to take this stuff out on tour.
Right. So
that's some background. And ironically, now this version of the movie comes out. Now, I'm just wondering a little bit if the movie coming out when it did had anything to do with the sale of the house and the Matt Rife stuff. And it was all just kind of put together, packaged together to make this a bigger thing than it would have been without all this happening at the same time.
And here's two things I just want to talk about. I just want to mention because I think they're interesting in the grand scheme of things. Number one, one of the Smurl's daughters, I think they had 3 daughters. One of them came out recently after the movie came out and posted that she was really angry because the people behind the movie reached out to them and wanted their input on the movie to make it in line with the true events, which, by the way, I don't know if I ever mentioned this before, but we were on our way, I think, back from Gettysburg several years ago, and I made Dave go to Pittston, and we found the house. So I actually have pictures of the house. So I sent you pictures. And it at the time, I mean, we're talking probably 15 years ago, it looked exactly the same as it did years and years ago, which I thought was ironic and weird. And just a little background on, here I go on a tangent, but just a little background on the house and the location in Pittston. From what my understanding is, this is interesting too, that it is known for activity in that area because there was a lot of bloodshed there. Now, everybody heard me talk about my Slocum family ancestors who lived down in that area, in the Wilkes-Barre, Scranton area, in the Wyoming, Pennsylvania area. And Jonathan Slocum, whose daughter, Mackinac, Frances Slocum, was taken by the Native Americans in the 1770s and grew up with them and became a chief's wife. Her father, Jonathan, was killed in the Battle of Wyoming, not that far from there. There was a lot of bloodshed in that particular area. And so I'm going to say naturally, activity has always popped up in that area. It's very active there. So I thought that was very interesting. But the 2 things I wanted to mention was that the Smurl daughter was really angry because they had come to her and said, we really want this to be true as possible. And they spent all this time consulting with them and all of this stuff. And then the movie comes out and she's like, the movie has nothing to do really with what happened in our house. And I thought that was interesting that she came out publicly and said that. She said that there were parts of it that were true, but there was a lot of it. She said the Sparrows were never part of this. It was just Ed and Lorraine and all of this kind of stuff. And so she was just very angry. The other thing I find interesting in this whole thing, not just the movie, but everything, is that Lorraine and Ed's nephew, John Zaffis, who is also well known in the paranormal community. I had the pleasure of hearing him lecture either 2 or 3 times locally over the years. And I've met him and I've spoken to him. He is a really great guy. And he had a show about haunted objects where they would investigate places and find objects in the place that were maybe the root or part of the root of a haunting. And they would ask the person permission to take it. And then sometimes it would calm down, that kind of stuff. He had a couple of shows that he did. I really like John. He's very straightforward and he's very
down to earth.
Very down to earth, very Boston, kind of guy. He's from Massachusetts as well. And I've always had respect for him over the years.
There's no
completely silent.
There's no celebrity from him. He doesn't walk around like a Zach Bagans or anything like that. There's no stardom there. He's really doing this because this is what he does.
Because this is what he does. And I actually talked to him about an experience. My mother met him, loved him, talked to him about an experience. But he's been completely silent. There has been nothing from him. And that makes you think. That makes you wonder how someone like John Zaffis is completely out of this picture, or at least facing part of the picture.
Especially
hasn't commented once.
Especially since, he's got some background with haunted objects and stuff like that. I just wonder, I don't know who Tony was referencing in his diatribe online, but apparently there's a family member, a grandson or something, I'm not sure, who feels very badly about the selling of the home and stuff like that. And Tony,
it's the grandson,
made personal comments about him about, well, he doesn't have enough money to do it and blah, blah, blah. So at any rate,
right.
I think it's interesting that you tell me that the Sparrows weren't even involved with this particular investigation in Pittston.
Not from what I understand. And she basically alluded to the fact that and said that they weren't a part of it. And here they are in the movie.
And they were a big part of the movie.
My memory.
They were a big part of the movie. In fact, the movie starts off, and again, if you don't want spoilers, do not listen to this podcast. But it basically starts off when Judy is born. And I don't know, again, how true this is, but according to the movie, she was stillborn. And it was kind of miraculous that she made it through. So they were always very protective of Judy. That I do know. But according to this movie, Judy's the one who kind of found the story in Pittston and the Smurl family and brought Ed and Lorraine there because Ed and Lorraine weren't doing any investigations at the time.
Right.
Ed's health was an issue, according to the movie. And so they were kind of taking a step back from, doing investigations and all that.
Let me throw this in. I remember I had sent you a copy of the post from the Smurl daughter. I found it. Let me just read this to you guys because I want to make sure that I'm remembering it correctly. Karen Williams Smurl. This was, I don't have a date, but recently. For those of you wondering my thoughts on the new Conjuring movie, yes, I am a Conjuring fan. So as a fan, it was good. Meaning the way we look at it is the movie and the story, the real story, are sometimes not completely a matchup. It was a good horror movie in general. As for the story, of all the talks and meetings we had with the writers, I can't believe they didn't once mention the storyline. Tony and Judy Sparrow were not involved, so the fact that they made it all about them was kind of shocking. I know they were trying to tie 2 stories together, but dear Lord, I mean, literally their involvement was non-existent. Oh, well, they wrapped it up well as a fan, but as a family, I don't know why they wasted our time even talking to us and stressing that they wanted to tell our story accurately and compassionately. That's all I have to say for now. Interesting.
Wow.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, so you had told me that before I saw the movie. I was an observer of the kind of blowout with Tony Sparrow online and kind of connected to it a little bit via my new job because my boss kind of went online and went after Tony Sparrow a little bit and just said, hey, listen, you guys are the ones who made it sound like this stuff was haunted and people were in danger. And now you're saying, well, you know, that's not why he died, and we're going to lease it out and blah, blah, blah.
Yet another example of, if it doesn't fit your narrative, then it's wrong.
Right.
You know, then you get angry because it doesn't fit your narrative.
Right. So the movie does focus heavily on Judy and her soon-to-be husband, Tony. And I literally did not grasp who these two were until I'm sitting there and like, because Tony was just kind of this dumb character in the movie for a little bit. And then all of a sudden he wants to marry Judy. And I'm like, oh my God, that's Tony Sparrow. I didn't put two and two together until that moment. And I'm like,
right.
Well, this is all about them. And it was about their wedding, and it was about him nearly being killed at this house because they all went there to investigate and try and get rid of whatever the hell was there. And yes, the Smurl family was such a very small part of this storyline. It was almost tragic. And here's the other part. One of the things I really liked about the original Conjuring is it was true to the form of horror movies or paranormal movies from that time period. It felt very genuine to that year, to the way movies were made back then about this kind of stuff.
Right.
I thought they portrayed it very, very well. This one was different. And I couldn't put my finger on it, but it almost seemed like the family, especially the mother and the father, because they were really more focused on, I think, than even the daughters or the grandparents or anything like that. A little bit with the daughters, because apparently, now I don't know again if this is true, but they brought a mirror into the house. And that was what brought the haunting, according to the movie.
Yeah, there is a mention in their true story about a mirror, I believe, at some point. What I think happened, now, let me just say this, Todd. If you want a good, and I haven't seen the movie, the new movie, but if you want a really good horror movie, by all means, go see the movie, because I think the Conjuring franchise overall is an amazing franchise.
For the most part.
If you want, because and I will say this, I have always believed the Smurls. I have always believed in them. I have always believed that this was entirely possible. They were very, very forthright, honest people. That's the vibe they gave off. And they gave off a desperate vibe too, because what happened was, in reality, Ed and Lorraine were actually at a local college after this had been going on for years. And one of them or both of them went and met with Lorraine and asked her for her help. A lot of people like to think that Ed and Lorraine just showed up places all the time, but that's not how it went. They literally went to them and asked them for help because they didn't know what else to do. They had no help from the church. They had, nothing. And it was a horrific haunting. If you really want to know the real story, I highly recommend YouTube. There is a video out there. It's like an hour and a half long of Lorraine actually interviewing them and asking them to tell their story. I think it's good. I think she leads them a little bit, but not in the way that is like totally dishonest. It's just she leads them because they're normal people who are going through something horrific. So they forget things, or so she leads them, but they tell their story in their own words. But there's also the movie in like 1990, 1991, like I said, with Sally Kirkland. That's where I learned about it. It's called The Haunted. And yes, it's like 30 something years old, but it was really well done. And it gives you an idea of what actually went on there. If you really want the whole story and you don't want just part of it like this movie does, the new movie, check it out, because really horrific things went on there. Not just, playful, weird things where, the dog she said that their dog would end up like she'd go grocery shopping and the dog would be in the yard, and she'd come home and the dog was in the house, and nobody was around to put the dog in the house. Things like that. But it got to be where there was like incubus, succubus situations. It was horrible. They would hear things going on next door in the parents' apartment, like banging and things getting thrown around, and they'd rush over there and they'd get in the apartment and everything was fine.
Did the grandparents have anything on that side of the house?
They would have odds and ends of things, but it wasn't like it was apparently over on the other side.
Do you think, and this is all conjecture, do you think the fact that there were young daughters living in that house had a lot to do with that side of the house being amped up? Without
a doubt. I think, here's what I think. Okay, this is just my thought process, Todd, but this is my having experience in the way in that kind of stuff.
Let me just finish one thought that I had on the movie, and then let's talk about it.
Go.
I felt the portrayal of the mother and the father, especially, very caricaturish. So the father, this happened in the mid 80s. So there's a certain look to that. And obviously the movie's trying to be true to that.
Right.
I just felt like they were a little over the top with the way they were portrayed. There is Liberty Mutual Insurance, Liberty, right?
Yeah.
The guy and the emu, the guy, the way he looks is kind of dorky with the glasses, and that's what the father kind of looked like. And the mother looked like a character from a really bad show called Sordid Lives from like the late 90s. And it portrayed women from the South very, beehive hairs and big glasses and all that. I just thought the way the family was portrayed, not so much the daughters, not so much the grandparents, but I felt like the family was portrayed kind of caricaturish.
Like,
and the other thing about it that pissed me off was turn on some fucking lights in your house. They filmed the house very... Yeah, I mean, okay, so you're holding up a picture right now in front of me.
That's the Smurl.
Right. And that, to be honest, the people who played the parts looked like that, but the mom and dad look like an 80s mom and dad.
Yeah.
The movie looks like a Saturday Night Live portrayal of an 80s mom and dad.
Yeah. So they took it up a notch.
I didn't think the acting from those two were all that good.
Yeah.
And again, if my house is haunted, I'm going to turn on some fucking lights. Now, you've been to my house. It's a dark house because of the way it sits. And I don't get a lot of light in my house except my kitchen.
Right.
The living room is dark. The dining room is dark because I've put up a stained glass window, which shields a lot of the light. But I can tell you right now that if my house was haunted or I was experiencing shit in my house, I would turn on some fucking lights.
I know.
And they didn't in this movie. And I'm like, how the fuck do you live like that? So I just wanted to say that I really felt like the portrayal of the family, not so much the daughters. The daughters, they did a good job of matching up the actors with what you just showed me of the Smurl family.
Right.
But again, the parents, I felt almost seemed like a Saturday Night Live rendition of what 80s parents might look like.
Right. It's funny you say that because with movies, I almost don't want to know anything about it before I go, because I go in with preconceived notions of how it's supposed to be. And then when it's not, it kind of frustrates me because I know what it really should be like. And again, I get the license that they take with things, but to kind of caricaturish kind of stuff, I'm not a big fan of that. So I just
wish it was more realistic. I thought that the family that they had in the original Conjuring, and even the Conjuring that took them to England, I believe. Excuse me. I felt like they portrayed those families really well. Now, I'm not saying that they necessarily matched the parent family well or anything like that, but I didn't sit there going, well, this is like over the top. bullshit. So I just wanted to say that was the final piece I had. I don't know. It was a good movie. I'm glad I went to see it. The best thing about it for me was the popcorn. I'm just gonna say.
Oh my God. I would just pay the money, the outrageous prices to go see a movie just so I could get the pop. I've actually gone in and gotten popcorn without seeing a movie. I'm just saying. It's been years, but I love movie popcorn. So I did find out. So I will probably, Todd, wait until it comes on like Netflix or something, and I'll probably watch it just now we've talked about it and I kind of want to see it. But to go see it, I feel like I know too much about the real story now. Yeah. And so it kind of like has come down for me. But I did look it up. The Smurls moved into their home in 1974 and it went until 1989. Makes sense. Yeah. And it says they were investigated by criminologists, clergy, psychologists, and scientific skeptics. We also have to keep in mind the time period, because as far as who was helping them, because those were the days when In Search Of was the biggest thing about unusual phenomena out there. And we didn't have the same kind of knowledge and understanding and acceptance that we have today. So we have to remember the time period in that as well.
And that was, when they bought you said, what was the year that they bought the house?
74.
74. So right after that was the Amityville horror thing. That all happened in like 76, 77, 78, 79, somewhere in there.
Yep.
And so there was a lot of attention on Ed and Lorraine Warren. There was a lot of attention on this is all hoax. The Catholic Church was really pushing back, saying this stuff doesn't really happen. They were kind of denying that hauntings and all that kind of stuff went on, exorcisms, all that we don't do that kind of stuff. Right. There was a lot of hiding from the Catholic Church as well. So I'm sure when a family in 84, 85, 86 goes to the Catholic Church and says, hey, listen, we got some shit going on.
Yeah.
The church wants nothing to do with it. Now, according to the movie, there was a priest friend of the of the Warrens who went and saw the family because he was interested in what was going on. And now I'm not sure if this is true or not, but in the movie, he commits suicide.
I don't know that for sure. It doesn't sound familiar to me from the story, but it could be a fact. I don't know. I know that he did or did not. I do know that the Catholic Church has always been, they're a bit more open now today about it, because I understand that in every single diocese, Catholic diocese, has at least one exorcist, one priest who is trained in exorcism. So just the fact that that is public knowledge or, available to find out is interesting to me and shows that they are at least a little more open about it than they used to be. But it used to be that you would have to, and you still today have to go in order to get an exorcism. It doesn't matter what religion you are a priest in. It could be any method, any of them. If you are going to do an exorcist, you have certain protocol that you follow. You interview them. You deeply interview them. You cover everything. You want to make sure that they're not mentally, emotionally unstable. You want to make sure that it's not drugs or alcohol or mental issues, that they have a good mental capacity. You want to eliminate everything else before you go to do anything like an exorcism or anything in that capacity. But you're right. Those were the days when the Catholic Church really wanted nothing at all to do with this stuff. So if you had a priest, chances are it wasn't a Catholic priest in the sense of the Catholic Church per se. Right? An ordained sort of Catholic priest. Chances are, because that was very rare to get the Catholic Church to be okay with an exorcism.
Yeah, they weren't okay with much back in the day.
They weren't okay with much. And I think a lot has happened in between. And
it's ironic. It's ironic what they were okay with, but what they weren't okay with. But that's all I'm going to say.
Well, what does that remind you of? That case that the first thing that you and I ever worked on in Wisconsin with the girl.
Oh, yeah.
And we found out that she lived right down the street from what? A church where a priest was doing some things that he shouldn't have been doing.
Correct.
I'll leave it at that. Yep. So, yes, very ironic, isn't it? But you don't have to be Catholic to do an exorcism. You just have to understand what you're doing and be able to do an exorcism. So what I think happened. All right. So not many people know this about the Smurls, but the reason that they moved to West Pittston, was it East Pittston or West Pittston?
I'm not sure.
I can't remember. West Pittston. The reason they moved there was because both the Smurls and his parents lost their homes in a flood. Okay. So you've got, now think about this. You've got two families torn apart, lost everything in a flood, and are in total mental, physical, emotional disarray. Moving to a place that is incredibly active, has seen death more than most people see death in their lifetime. History, layers and layers of history, Native American history, other deaths. Not far from there was actually I think it was a mine collapse. We read something about it while we were out there a couple of years ago. There was a mine collapse and there were miners trapped under the water and lots of them died. Just horrific things happened in that area in history. You've got 3 teenage girls. What do we know about teenage girls? They're a lot of times they are connected to poltergeist activity because of hormonal fluctuations and emotional changes and things like that. We've seen that happen. You have a lot of turmoil going on in one place. And what did we learn? That even whether a place is already active to a certain extent or not, what have we learned about that? It's that it attracts more turmoil. It attracts energy. It can attract really, really bad energy. Is it any surprise to anyone with all of those things swirling around in a house, especially with 3 teenage girls, that this happened? Do I believe there was a demon in there? I think it's highly possible. When you get into incubus and succubus situations, I mean, that's not Casper the Friendly Ghost, right? So do I think that something that was already there may have been magnified by 1,000? I do. Do I think it all happened right away? No, because they really, for years, they tried to get some help, but it was never like a terrifying thing to them until down the road when it just intensified. And so doesn't darkness beget darkness? Doesn't it attract darkness?
Also think about the fact that you've got, at some point, teenage girls. Like prior to that, they're not teenage, right? So that's ramping things up. The other thing you have to keep in mind was this was a duplex, as you said. You've got grandparents on one side. Mm-hmm. You've got a rather big family living on the other side. You've got parents, you've got kids, not just the 3 girls. I think there were some other kids, younger kids as well, or something like that. I think, according to the movie or whatever, I'm not sure. Yeah. But you've got kids, it's blue collar. There's a lot of stress involved, all that kind of stuff. So one of the things they said in the movie was that, well, we can't move because we've got all these people. This just happens to be a really good location for us to be, where we're right next to family. We went together and bought this place, whatever. So I think.
Yeah, they didn't have a lot of money. After the flood took everything, they didn't have a lot of money. So this was what they could do, is buy this together.
Right.
So,
right.
And it was not huge. They actually had to take some of the bathroom. They took some of one of the bedrooms and like expanded the bathroom because it was so tiny. They had to do some work in there. It was,
I mean, if you look at the house, and me being somebody who enjoys it, probably, a house built in the 30s, 40s, something like that.
Yeah.
And there were a lot of houses that were like this. I mean, in Milwaukee, there's a ton of these types of houses where they are duplexes. Yep. And people buy one side or the other. Sometimes families get together and buy both. And like in this situation, part of the family lives on one side, part of the family lives on the other. So it's people are like, well, why did they stick around? Sometimes, you just can't get a new place to live. And in today's economy, we should understand that even more. But,
it's funny. People ask that all the time. Well, why didn't you just get out? But it's sort of like asking someone, well, why don't you manufacture all this money to go find another place to live when you just put everything you have left into that house itself? Like, where are you going to get the money to do that? It was a different time back then, too. And it's still not today.
Yeah. I would just say this about the movie. It is a decent movie. I just thought the timing of the movie coming out, with the focus being on Tony and Judy, and then the sale of the and Lorraine's house and the whole thing with, it just seems a little convenient that all this spotlight was put on Tony and Judy. And I'm not saying they're bad people. I'm not making any reference to anything like that. But I wonder if the sale of the house and the leasing of the items all happened at a very opportunistic time.
And I'll just say this to add to yours. We talked about Ed and Lorraine many times, and we both agreed on the fact that I do really think that Ed and Lorraine cared. I don't think they were doing that. I don't think they were money grubbers. I don't think they were shysters. I don't think that, do I think they were always right in everything they did? Probably not, but are any of us?
Right.
What I will say is that I do think that this couple still had to make a living. Just like all of us had to make a living. If you look at the house that they left behind, it's not a mansion.
No, not at all.
It's a very nondescript home back off the road. It's quiet. And they made enough money. They did their lectures and stuff, right? They traveled and made their money doing lectures and things like that so that they could afford to live and work on cases. They worked on thousands and thousands of cases that weren't the Amityville Horror, that weren't the Smurl family haunting, that weren't, and they didn't ask for money. This couple had to make a living. So if that's what then why not make a living with it too, right? So I don't have much negative to say about them. I think that especially Lorraine did what she could do because she wanted to help.
Yeah, okay? I would say that too. Yep.
This is a whole different generation of goings on, and I'm not really sure that I feel the same way. I will say that Ed and Lorraine did bring the haunted objects around before they passed away. They were doing what is being done now, but not in the same capacity. Yeah. Yes, they were charging money, but I also think I would have felt safer with Ed and Lorraine there than I would have been with this tour that's going on and the certain people that are handling this tour. Do I think that Rivera died because of Annabelle? I don't know. I have no idea.
I would say probably not, but
right.
But with all the questions about the items that they're touring with,
right,
it's possible. It's possible it had something to do with it.
And especially with the video that was going around of Dan literally just taking the doll out and moving it, which is something Ed and Lorraine said you should never do.
Right.
And then they're like, oh, but he said prayers and he put holy water on it and blah, blah, blah. It's still not what they were supposed to be doing, right? According to this. So I don't know. I can't even begin to tell you, Todd, whether that really had something to do with it or not. I do think it's ironic that that it happened where it happened, and that it was not long after I was there, which, by the way, I know we're not huge fans of Jason Hawes as far as his the way he does his videos, but not to get off the topic, but I just have to throw this in because I thought it was hilarious. He's been doing a couple of weeks after Dave and I were in Gettysburg, and I toured the Jenny Wade House and the orphanage back in June. Jason Hawes was there with his team and Sherry DiBenedetti, and they investigated the Jenny Wade House and the orphanage. And two things that I thought were kind of cool is that, because, you know, I told you about Billy before I even went on the tour. I messaged you and told you about him coming to me, and I told Dave, and I said to both of you, I said, I don't know what this means, but I want you guys to know this now so that if I come out and I pick something up or something happens, I want you to know about it. And then, of course, they tell the story of little Billy from the orphanage over at the Jenny Wade House. So that just blew my mind. And I got, while we were in the orphanage, I got the little girl yelling out in the hallway. Nobody else heard it, but I got it on audio. So we're watching the video, and aren't they talking about Billy? About the story of Billy. And then they're in the same room that I sat in the orphanage, when I heard to my left out in the hall the little girl. And don't they hear a girl's voice? I'm like, tell me that's not something. Talk about validation, right? It just made my heart so happy because, you know, I'm still at the point in this thing where I'm just amazed when these things happen to me. So I thought that was interesting. But point being, though, it's an interesting thing that it happened in a place that's so incredibly active, like Gettysburg. Like every inch of Gettysburg was the battlefield.
Yeah.
Town, everything. And this poor man passed away there while handling Annabelle. I don't know. Is there a correlation? I have no idea. I don't know.
Well, we've had conversations before about sometimes I worry about people who are believed to have mental illness problems may have more going on than that.
Yes, I agree.
Does every person who have addictions to drugs, are they possessed? I'm not saying that, but I'm just saying, is there something darker at play in situations like that? And so in this situation where this guy dies, was being around this stuff that long? I'm not saying like that day the doll killed him, but being around that negative stuff all the time, did it slowly whittle away at his life? Did it had, you know, maybe his arteries were clogged? How much of it was his food? How much of it may have been negative energy and stuff like that? I don't know.
I don't know. I couldn't agree with you more. Because negativity, when you have something like that, we'll just talk about that situation. Why wouldn't it try to get at you a little bit at a time? We hear about that all the time. It's not going to just all of a sudden just bonk you on the head. It's because it enjoys it. It's going to get at you a little bit. How many stories have we heard of demonic possession where it happens over a period of time? And I mean, we're just musing here. These are not, you know, steadfast things, but we've seen cases where it eats at you time after time after time until it goes in for the kill, right? Literally and figuratively. So who's to say that hasn't been happening, right? Why was Dan the one who was handling everything? And, you know, who knows? Maybe it just happened to be Gettysburg where it had enough energy to just manifest something final. I don't know. I feel horrible for Dan, and I feel horrible for his friends and family, and I'm so sorry, regardless of the reason. And, it'll just be something that people will talk about forever and never really know the truth.
Which is a lot of what the paranormal life is like. We will never truly know everything.
No.
Not in this lifetime. So we can only base our thoughts and processes on what we do know. And
that's right.
So.
Don't take chances. Be safe. I always carry with me, my little bag of protection and just be safe. Don't make stupid choices.
Well, I think we've covered that very well, and we should look at, if you can find that episode where we talked about the Conjuring house, that might be a nice replay to put out there in the next several weeks.
I know. I'm going to start. I was just telling you before we started recording that at one point we had done some old videos and stuff, but I think I'm going to start running some previous episodes, audio episodes that we've done in the weeks that we aren't recording new stuff, just so that everybody can stay engaged. And a lot of people, we've got 15 seasons under our belt, so there's a lot of audio out there, a lot of episodes that people may have not even heard. And, we're charming and funny and wonderful. So why would you want to miss out?
No comment to any of that.
So I'll be doing that.
That is wonderful.
I'm still waiting for the return of Bejesus, but that's a whole other episode.
Bejesus, let's say that's not Bejesus.
This might be Bejesus. I don't remember what Bejesus sounds like.
I don't remember either. I'll have to go back and find it. Maybe I'll play a Bejesus episode next week.
Yes, please play a Bejesus episode.
I need one of those.
Yes, you do.
I do.
Yeah, because there's so much fun you can have with it.
I know. We could have dueling voices. Everybody'd be really annoyed with us after that.
I would think so, if they're not already. All right.
If not.
Well, until our next episode, we'll fill you in with some old stuff, and I don't know what we'll have out there, but until next time, bye.
Bye.
We make podcasting easy. Mindgarden Media can get you going on your very own podcast. With many years in the broadcast and audio industry, Mindgarden Media can edit, fully produce, and provide all the web distribution services. We're podcasters too, so we'll guide you every step of the way to a professional-sounding podcast production. For information, email the mindgardenmedia@gmail.com. The mindgardenmedia@gmail.com. Or check us out on Facebook.